Okay, now we're ready for the Friday night stream topic. The Manifesto of June 22nd, Seth Hatfield. And there's the manifesto there. And I provide a link to the PDF for you to download and follow along. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read, I'm going to analyze the highlighted quotes from this, and I do a deep analysis through my objectivist, radical objectivist, Ancap, and Agorist lens. And so we're just going to focus on each section here and do analysis. So how I divide it here is I'll divide it in slides. Like I'll have the manifesto, hypergamy, incel grievances. Oh, this is at the bottom. Okay, sorry. The top here, premiable. There it is. And the link, like I said, to the PDF is in the description box. I give a key quote, what pages they're on. I talk about like strengths. Then I go to the next one, court, and I talk about the flaw, philosophical flaw, objectivist contrast, and it keeps going here, continued, and then bottom line summary. And at the end, after I divide these up into different sections according to the manifesto. Like this is biological dimorphism is the next section. This will be page 3 to 15. Let's see. So it will go all the way to the end, final takeaway. I have a summary of it. And I will kind of maybe backtrack a little bit as I read this and kind of do a summary for people that come late. Okay, so let's do this. And let's see, so page 1 and 2. Okay, here we go. It's the beginning. So, in case you didn't know, this manifesto is a 104-page document titled Manifesto of June 22nd by Seth Hatfield. The alleged perpetrator, a 25-year-old from Lethbridge, Alberta, created around June 8, 2026. I wonder if he created it in haste. Or did he just have this something he created for a long time? Or is working on, or just last minute. Okay, so it was left behind. Let me leave that. Okay, so this manifesto was left behind after June 22nd, 2026 shooting in Montreal near the Hilton Garden Inn across from the Pornhub offices. I keep wanting to say Hatfield. Halloween. Hatfield allegedly shot at the building, leading to a confrontation where he killed Constable Mohammed Lamine, a civilian, died in the incident. Another officer was injured, and Hatfield was killed by police. Okay. So the core ideological synthesis. So this document, as you read here, it blends the far left Marxist anti-capitalist, condemns capitalism as extracting value from the many for the few, reducing humans to commodities, destroying community for transactional relationships, and infiltrating all life with market logic, he calls it. Praises historical communist systems for preserving monogamy and traditional customs, contrasting with Western degeneration. It refers to Judeo-bourgeois class while distinguishing not all Jews. Okay, and this course has anti-Semitic, anti-Zionism critique in here as well. So let's get into this here. So the first quote here, the key quote on pages 1 and 2, this work delivers an explanation. Terrible, terrible loneliness, isolation, and social degradation that is now a stark reality for many men. Okay, so he talks about this male loneliness here. Let me read that. Okay. So page 1 and 2, so the work delivers an explanation of the very peculiar and ghastly state of things that the Western world has found itself in, especially regarding the situation of terrible loneliness, isolation, and social degradation that is now a stark reality for many men of varying ages across our societies. Okay, talks about the stark reality. Incel red pill grievances on hypergamy, male loneliness. It goes on modern women enabled by feminism, no-fault divorce, economic independence, and pursue talking about now, where I was interrupted, incel red pill grievances on hypergamy, male loneliness. So according to modern women enabled by feminism, no-fault divorce, economic independence, pursue top-tier men hypergamy, leaving most men in involuntary loneliness, isolation, and alienation. He blames this on liberalism, capitalism, porn, leading to hypergamous alienation. Blames this on liberalism, capitalism, porn. I just said that hellscape. He calls it the hypergamos hellscape. That's what he calls it. Calls for restricting women's economic sexual freedoms in a new order. So he keeps going here, saying it is a reality that was steadily growing and looming within the shadows of the peripheries of common discourse for a long time, and only relatively recently has it grown prominent enough to come to be openly acknowledged by the powers that be, and indeed also by the general population to some extent, as something that actually exists at all. Although the existence of this mysterious dread is now at least verbally acknowledged on considerable scale, it is still the case that it is true nature, and the way in which it can be done away with remain almost entirely hidden from people. Hidden. So he talks about the hidden. So in this text, he says, I primarily deal with the state of things regarding young people approximately under the age of 30 that live in the highly developed Western nations of today. But I maintain that the information here is still very relevant to many older people and to other areas of the world. And I believe that some of the ideas expressed in this writing may possibly be even more well received in various non-Western nations than in the Western nations that this work describes. I therefore directly condone and encourage the publication of this text in Russian, Arabic, Farsi, Hindu, Spanish, Portuguese, and Mandarin Chinese languages. Did anyone put that in Mandarin? I like to see it in Mandarin. He says, note, however, that I do not intend to cause unrest with non-Western nations by the distribution of the text therein. He doesn't want to cause unrest, but he has a call. Later, he does calls to violence, where he advocates an armed revolution, terror against elites, porn industry, targeted the location, bankers, CEOs, politicians, Class A targets, etc. And he ends with a militant rhetoric like, be unflinching, go forth and kill them all, echoing Metallica. So yeah, but he doesn't want to cause unrest in non-Western nations, just the West. He wants to destroy Western civilization. He has a quote here, Spinoza. It says, in other words, it is part of my happiness to lend a helping hand, and that many others may understand even as I do, so that their understanding and desire may entirely agree with my own. Okay. Page 2 talks about the foundation. So you can see the core synthesis happening here between the far left and Marxist anti-capitalism. He'll go on to condemn capitalism as extracting, as he says, as extracting value from the many for the few, reducing humans to commodities. This is typical anti-communist rhetoric. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so he'll get into dimorphism in a minute here. I'm looking at. Okay, so as we're analyzing this, we're going to analyze this through the radical objectivist lens. Ayn Rand inspired reason, egoism, individual rights, laissez-faire capitalism. So just a reminder of that is that objectivism holds reality as objective. Reason is the means of knowledge. Man's proper purpose is rational self-interest, egoism, and the ideal society protects individual rights via capitalism, no initiation of force. Okay, let's continue reading here. In the reality in which we live, manifold things exist. None of these things exist in complete isolation from their other things, but are engaged in a constant process of interaction, which manifests in varying ways and has varying effects on the manifold things that exist. The reality in which we live is henceforth referred to as nature. Some of these things that exist within nature are living and some are not. The broad category of living things that exist in nature are henceforth referred to as organisms. Organisms can be coherently classified into various categories based on characteristics that they hold in common. The study of this classification is science of taxonomy. Okay, so here's where alignment occurs. It's a strong rejection of subjectivism, for example, gender ideology, and anti-reality, dimorphism, sex as biological fact, not social construct, outliers don't negate principles. This echoes Ayn Rand's emphasis on objective identity, A is A, and opposition to altruism, collectivism that sacrifices the individual. Critique of porn as a commodifying, distorting human relations has some resonance with concerns over second-handness or evasion of reality. Though Rand wasn't prudish. She wasn't prudish. Okay. So let's get into the major critiques here. That was kind of where it lines where it's talking about here, the classification vertebrates. Kind of goes on, man is island, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go into the next section. Okay, so the next one, he correctly identifies the real observable crisis. He says, widespread male loneliness, isolation, declining social bonds, refuses to evade the facts. And he stated that at the beginning for this first 2 pages. Okay. Let's keep reading. I want to get to that flaw in here. Okay. Here's dimorphism. Let's get to that part. I want to read that. So it says, since dimorphism affects both the external appearance of humans based on their sex and the behavior of humans based on their sex, they resultantly are general differences between the two sexes, which are quite consistent across all human populations. Of course, some outlier instances do sporadically occur. Yeah, that's, you're talking about how this alignment's when he talks about the, he'll get into the anti-reality, but he's accepting the reality. Dimorphism, sex is biological facts, not a social construct. Pretty much what she's saying. Of course, some outliers instances do sporadically occur, and it's entirely possible for humans of the female sex to sometimes outwardly resemble humans of the male sex. Okay, so that's the dimorphism he recognizes. He goes on, the physical effects of dimorphism as manifest in humans can be described thusly. Males and females in human species display general consistent variation in stature, with males typically being larger than females. The sex always display generally consistent physical variations. The strength and the thickness of the bones, okay, blah, blah, blah. He just recognized the reality of dimorphism. That's it. And he's going to use it to reject the subjectivism. Okay, it goes on and on with this. Another category of different existences. Yeah, finally, being more obfuscated for common view, there exists between the sexes and humans more category of differences which pertain to their methods of participation in the productive processes. They have blah, blah, blah. We get that. It keeps going and going about this. Biological biological facts, his famous blah, 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 just page after page. Okay, that's just too much. So what I want to get to is the core philosophical flaw. And that's kind of obvious when you read this. As you're reading this, it is misdiagnosis causes a systemic capitalism, feminism, liberalism. It relies on collectivist determinism, victimhood, ignores personal agency, and bad philosophy. Okay, contradiction. Here it is. When he's talking, he just pointed that out. That was the next section. Get to the contradiction of the imperatives of human society. He says the existence of the contradiction of the imperatives has naturally produced oppositional forces at the varying degrees of severity between the two sexes in all hitherto existing human societies. So that's what he's self-esteem versus victimhood. He goes, historically, we have seen that the transition from primitive hunter-gatherer mode of human life into early civilization itself entailed the establishment of regulations. Now, that's what I kind of want to know about this. Supposedly, this is written on June 2nd, but was this something that was written at the spur of the moment, spontaneously, just off the cuff? He wrote, or just something he'd been working on for a long time? Because so far, it's been pretty boring. He's just setting you up with his contradictions. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Imperatives. The foremost of this category of regulation was the practice of monogamy. Okay, monogamy. Just looking at my notes where I have elaborate on that. Solutions, broader takeaway. Key highlights. Okay, there's the highlights. Okay, so to summarize the preamble again, he talked about male loneliness as a civilization in crisis. So he has that quote at the beginning. This work delivers an explanation of the very peculiar and ghastly state of things that the Western world has found itself in, especially regarding the situation of terrible, terrible loneliness, isolation, and social degradation that is now a stark reality for many men of varying ages across societies. So, through the objectivist lens, these are like the first 10 pages or so. Or the first 20 pages. I think in page 31, we get to the next section that I want to get into. What they call the traitor principle versus resentment. The virtues of selflessness, objectivist ethics. And now we're quoting Ayn Rand here too. That's what the page note was referring to. Objectivist ethics, page 31 and 32. Okay. Okay, so loneliness part. It stems from Okay, so the modern atomization here, we're talking about acknowledges real suffering. Declining marriage, birth rates are miserable. So, however, Randian objectivist attributes this to philosophical errors. Yeah. Not the victimhood. Altruism, subjectivism, statism, rather than a system as inherent evil. They both, Ayn Rand and this guy, reject subjectivism. However, the solutions are quite different based on different ethics and morals. The solution, personal philosophy of reason, self-esteem, and productivity. Not him. This guy's blaming external forces, evades individual agency. And blaming external forces, that's typical Marxist. That's typical Marxist. But Rand's heroes forge values amid adversity. Okay. So monogamy. Eventually, the widespread of hunter-gatherer lifestyle began to be replaced in certain areas by agricultural lifestyles. Okay. Oh my God. It makes me, when I look at this, like he must have been working this for a long time. He's got citations, quoting from philosophers. Let's see. What does he say here? Let's skip to this. But lastly, we have the small class of males that were strongly desired as mating partners by females. These types seem to have benefited the least overall from the societal shift into agriculture and monogamy, as previously they were the unchallenged masters of their primitive hunter-gatherer realms, being able to have women in particularly endless abundance and with basically no repercussions. While in the new agricultural city-states, on the other hand, there often were some... God, Jesus Christ. I mean, if you want to read all of it, go ahead, but this is boring. Really, so what? Yeah, what about it? Yeah, we know all this already. Okay, let's get to the recently, what he says. Recently, however, there has been a great shift in things. Like what? Where once the antagonisms that result from the contradiction of the imperatives were widely ameliorated through the institutions of monogamy, it is now actually the case that in high capitalist societies, oh my God, i.e. in the societies of Western world, monogamy is no longer prevalent at all. Really? I don't know, step outside and, when you go to the park or when you go shopping or something, it looks like monogamy is still pretty stable and prevalent. I don't know what he's looking at. And as a result, we find present a vastly unequal distribution of intimacy among the human populations of those nations, a skewed inequality. There's inequality, is that word. Not so unlike that which existed in primitive times, in that we find most of the females only copulating with a tiny fractional group of the males. That's not true. The average people are getting married and having kids. So this is a breakdown. Of course, he's talking about the breakdown. He's going to blame external forces too. See? So to understand how this present high capitalist society came into existence, and just why that monogamy is not something that prevails within them, wrong. In the next chapter, we'll examine the relatively recent circumstances of the 20th century, which led into the creation of the present state of things in Western society. Now, is he claiming this is inevitable? This is an inevitable stage? Is this the next stage? He's saying that this is the slippery slope and it was meant to happen this way? Is it destiny? I mean, if you rewound the tape and did something different, would the same thing happen again? Okay, so go back to we're still in the preamble. Civilization in crisis. Okay, so we talked about the objectivist lens here, and that's what we're using so far to analyze this. So we pointed out he does acknowledging some kind of real suffering, valid observation, declining marriage, birth rates are measurable. But like I said, Rand attributes this crisis caused by philosophical errors like altruism, subjectivism, and statism. However, his says that it's the evil of capitalism is causing it. It's an outside influence. Okay, so that's the objectivist lens of the first chapter. So the agorist lens, loneliness, partly stems from the state distortions. Like, for example, the welfare state, family law, regulations inflating the cost of living, relationships, and taxes. Combination of that with taxes and how you're supposed to have a family if you're being most of your a lot of your salary is being taken from you at the end of each month. And so how do you supposedly cost of living is bad, it's going up, and your taxes are bad. And if you got rid of taxes, it might help people get together, incentivize them to have families. Don't give them a tax break. Don't give them like a tax, what's that? They give them like a reward. They give you like a tax credit, like $2,000 to have families. The opposite is true. If you just took away all taxes, then people would have more money to spend that they created themselves, and they would be able to have families. Okay, so Agorist, though, we have a solution to this. We have a counter-economic solution to this. We still build voluntary communities, and of course, we build parallel institutions. And what do they emphasize? They emphasize self-reliance and mutual aid, not a revolution. This guy wants a revolution. A manifesto ignores the black and gray market path to cultural renewal. And of course he does. Now we get the Ancap lids here. Let me see the next chapter. Okay, hypergamy state. Okay. So we'll get to that. We'll return to that in a minute. Read this. Okay, so Ancap here. The NAP, right? The non-aggression principle, respecting markets and dating, apps and social tech, for example, and the private governance. These could address mismatches. State interventions, like no-fault divorce, welfare replacing providers, exacerbate hypergamy. Here's where we have this hypergamy right here. Like dynamics by reducing accountability. Violence solves nothing. Better matching via reputation, voluntary contracts, and cultural evolution does. Okay, so here is the genesis of hypergamy state. The hypergamy state in which Westerners now live is essential as an inevitable result of economics. Essentially an inevitable result. So this is typical. Is this historical dialectic saying it's an inevitable result? And if socialism or communism, according to him, is the inevitable result, then why is he trying to have a violent revolution then? He just sit back and watch the collapse. And accept the inevitability of the communist utopia. So he says here, essentially, is the inevitable result of the economic system of capitalism, as we shall soon see. Inevitable. Why does it have to be inevitable? Why is that necessary to be inevitable? Well, it has to follow the Hegelian historical dialectic. Okay, so before we begin the narrative of this chapter itself, though, it will be necessary for me to give you some definitions of certain terms that are used in this text. Okay, so now he's got these two different these definitions of capitalism. So he has like D1. Okay, by low capitalism, I mean capitalism in its this is Hegel, pre-industrialized form, or Marx Hegel, as it existed from its earliest days in the European towns of the Renaissance until the completion of the industrialization process, which occurred varying in different places. It's inconsistent. So it's not consistent, though. This isn't inevitable. He's got a contradiction here because it said it occurred varying in different places. So it wasn't consistent. It wasn't just evenly happening at the same time. It was happening in varying degrees. But in Western societies had largely taken place by the end of the Victorian era. Okay, now he talks about the next stage, the inevitable stage. By high capitalism, I mean capitalism in its fullness. That is capitalism with the entire strength of the technological industry and all the many powerful assets produced from that industry. So is he acknowledging that it's wealth creation? Being fully and extensively utilized in enhancing and enforcing the continuing dominance of the bourgeois class. See, why is that necessary? That this has to happen? Because it has to happen according to this worldview. So why do you want a violent revolution then if it's happening naturally? If it has to happen. So being fully and extensively utilized in enhancing, enforcing, continuing dominance. Oh, so continuing dominance. Is he claiming that the bourgeois class had dominance in the first place? And now they just want to continue this dominance? So is this kind of like what, zero-sum game of power? That they didn't create this, it was something that they already had in the first place, and now they want to continue the dominance? Is that what he means? Maybe. It sounds like it. Being fully and okay. Some people refer to this monopoly capitalism, imperialism, or globalism, while additionally some others say that it's actually bastardized form of socialism since the corporations plan the economy in some ways. Since the corporations plan the economy in some ways. What do you mean by that? The heck do you mean by plan the economy in some ways? Not always, just little ways? If it's a planned economy, I mean, yeah, if it's a planned economy, it wouldn't really work. Because you can't plan anything. But how are corporations planning? Explain to us how they're doing this. Monopoly capitalism. Well, that exists because of state interference. We know that. The state, imposes all these regulations and rules on these industries and corporations, and they can afford the regulations and the entitlements, government entitlements, whereas the smaller corporation can't. But I don't know what he means by corporations plan the economy in some ways. In what way? Explain one way. Some ways, a lot, a little bit. Yeah, I don't understand. For the sake of clarity, however, I will simply be using the term high capitalism because he believes we're late stage. It's just another way of saying late stage capitalism. That's all he's saying. So what is capitalism? Did he say he was going to give us the definition? As he said here, let me see. Before we begin the narrative of this chapter itself, though, it will be necessary for you to give some definitions of certain terms. Okay? Low capitalism. I mean, capitalism in its pre-industrialized form. What is that, though? What is capitalism? You're telling us what low capitalism is, but what is capitalism? He hasn't defined what it is, and how is that low capitalism? And again, he hasn't defined capitalism. What about middle class? Does he define middle class? By middle class, I mean both the petty bourgeois class and the labor aristocracy together as one broad group. And this broad group, they have a consciousness, right? How do they determine that they have this consciousnness? What determines it? Their genes? Their culture? What? Is it their race? What awakens this consciousness? And do they all have the same consciousness? Do they all develop the same consciousness at the same time? How? As one broad group, but they're not all the same. Okay, so now he says, by Western society, I don't mean just societies of Western Europe, the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, but rather I refer to a more broad category of strongly developed high capitalist societies. So he's putting them all together, that he's claiming that any society that has high level or achieve high level technology and high prosperity and entrepreneurship and innovation, he's considered Western because they're all practicing Western civilization. Okay. I got it. I got where he's coming from here. I know he's coming here from that Marxist idea from on the Jewish question. You know that famous quote by Karl Marx, however scurvy they may be, however they may smell, they are all inwardly circumcised Jews. The Jews are practicing capitalism without even knowing it. That's why they're inwardly circumcised, because they're not consciously aware that they're practicing the religion of capitalism. Capitalist is capitalism. So this is the same thing as here. They're unconscious. They're unconsciously practicing Western civilization without even knowing that they are. And he's recognizing these other countries as Western society. Any of these groups are practicing Western society if they have a high culture or a high innovation and technology industry. So he's doing the same thing. These are all inwardly circumcised Jews, so to speak. And including additional places that I listed, the nations of South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, along with the most developed regions in South America as well. What developed regions? Which ones? Name one. So, yeah. This is what he's defining Western civilization as. What is that? What did Hitler say about that too in Mein Kampf? I'm trying to remember what he said about that also. Okay, I don't remember exactly. There was something he said similar to that in Mein Kampf. Okay, now he's going to define hypergamy. I don't mean the traditional definition of that word. Why not? What is the traditional definition of the word? Show us the traditional definition. But why not though? Why don't you mean that one? Why are you meaning something different then? Is this typical socialist trick where you define freedom your way, freedom from private property, or freedom from government coercion? Is he doing this trick? Saying that I don't mean the traditional definition? Well, yeah, okay, you're doing the socialist thing definition. You mean something different, which pertains to women marrying into wealthy families. What? But rather, I mean something like the opposite of monogamy, or namely a phenomena in which females simply copulate as they please with a plethora of attractive males, as opposed to monogamy, in which the same females would be bound legalistically and culturally to just what era is this guy living in? Who does this? I mean, maybe some backwards third world shitholes probably still do this kind of stuff, especially like radical Islamic nations where they're bound to the male. I mean, this isn't Greek society anymore. But according to him, hypergamy. I keep thinking of Seinfeld. Gammy. Who cares about your gammy? I don't mean the traditional definition of the word. He doesn't explain why, though. Yeah, I'd like to know why. Why he's not using the traditional definition of the word. And so, what do you mean? Was it? I know that the term polygamy could perhaps be used for this, but I deem hypergamy to be the better word for our purpose here. And what is your purpose and why? What is the purpose? Let me see my notes. Did I have anything about that? Okay. We talk about the biological foundations, the critique of capitalism, praise for communism. We haven't gotten to that yet. Oh, here we go. Hypergamy. So it's going to be used for the function of incel grievances. So again, he's here. Now he's got, by hypergamy state, I mean any civilization or civilized nation in which hypergamy has become the dominant mode of intimacy. Where? Point to some examples where. Thus, both modern Western civilization itself, because he already defined what that was, sort of. He said any country that practices Western civilization, could be Asian country, and individual nations such as the United States, Canada, etc., can all be defined as hypergamy states. Really? How so? Explain how that is. Vague here. Now he talks about intimacy. I mean romantically, physically, or sexual conduct between two rational, consenting, and reproductively matured human beings of the opposite sex. Just the opposite sex? Not all intimacy results in the production of offspring, though practically all the production of offspring is a result of intimacy. Well, okay. his cake and eat it too. With that, we are able to proceed with our investigation. I'm still not clear. Let's read this first paragraph. Say, in Western society today, remember that could be Asian countries or even Eastern countries, any country that's practicing capitalism, the dominant economic system is high capitalism. It's late stage capitalism, boys and girls. This is it. It's over. Socialism is just around the corner. High capitalism evolved from low capitalism which itself was fostered by the bourgeois class during the later stages of feudal times. Here's the historical dialectic he's going through. He's a communist, so of course he believes this is all inevitable. So why do you need a violent revolution then, if it's inevitable? Why do you need to go out with guns? Why do you need to destroy democracy? Why do you want to destroy capitalism? If it's inevitable, you're in late stage capitalism, and it's passed through feudalism. Might as well just wait until it collapses. All this is to say that capitalism as a system was not a creation of the common man. How he got to that conclusion, I have no idea. Or more specifically, the monogamous male farmers and laborers of feudal times, but rather capitalism was the creation of a small. So he's equating feudalism with capitalism. But rather capitalism was the creation of a smaller and more privileged male clique. No, capitalism was created by anybody. It wasn't created by one specific group. It's just any individual that engages in voluntary exchange, non-violently, between two individuals. I'll trade you fur for clams. I don't know how he comes to this conclusion. Who had very different interests than the workers and peasants around them. The consciousness, the mindset. But how do you determine that mindset? How did that happen? Is it all the same mindset too? Everyone had all the same mindset at the same time? Did this occur at the same time? Or trickle down? I don't know. It is crucial that any readers who are males of proletariat background, how do you know what I'm... how do you know I have proletarian background? I don't know how you determine that. Understand that capitalism was not created for them. Capitalism occurs naturally. It's not created. It's just something that people do naturally when there's no government around. They create surplus. If you allow the creation of something of value and utility, and other people, individuals, because they're all different, will see the different value and the different utility of the thing that the minority creator created. And now since you've obtained this new product or whatever this person created from his own mind, you're now elevated to the same sort of knowledge as the minority creator. And it could be any minority creator. There's not a select few of people. He still believes in the zero-sum game here. He thinks that this has existed, it always existed, and they always had it. The bourgeois already had the money, already had the stuff in the first place. It's not designed. They don't design capitalism. It just occurs naturally. In mind. Here he is, of the interest of people like them in mind. Okay, how do you determine that they all have the same mind? How do they get to that place? In the case that capitalism, a system of bourgeois creation, tends in its nature more to benefit that specific clique of bankers, merchants, and it benefits everybody. And he's describing businessmen, which comprises the bourgeois class that created it, rather than male proletarians. I guess all these people are the same. They're all the same mindset, and they all develop this same proletarian mindset at the same time. They're all monolith, who under capitalism can largely only live by selling their labor to the bourgeois class. No, they don't sell the labor, they exchange, they trade. No one's selling anything. I'm trading my labor for money. I'm creating wealth. a producer, so I'm engaging in a trade. I agree to work for this guy, and this guy agrees to pay me. Yeah, that's a trade. They're not selling. And the labor, it's not the labor. Whatever work you're doing is determined by the free market. So if I'm an unskilled laborer, I'm doing a job, let's say, like at a poultry center. I'm doing work that just any primate can do. So I'm not going to get paid high level because it's low skill. Anybody can do it. The people that work there are interchangeable. And anybody can work at these places, or even in fast food too. And I mean, anybody can do it. So it's just determined by, whatever the free market is. Oh, well, you're unskilled labor. It doesn't require any previous knowledge or education or training to do this job. So I'm just going to pay you this much. You didn't go to a trade school, or you didn't go anywhere to study or increase your knowledge on how to work. Are you getting experience with it? Let's see. Though it is heavily obfuscated, unknown today, it is the objectively true reality that the economic structure of society, or in other words, its base upon which all the useful things that assist in the daily life of its members are produced, has a powerful continuing effect on the many other aspects of that society which compromises superstructure, culture, and all of its various manifestations. He thinks it's just a big monolith citadel or something. Superstructure. He almost gets there in a way here in this paragraph. He's almost like, hey, wait a minute. We can produce things. And what do we produce here? We produce something, we create something that other individuals see a value in. And then they will agree to the price in exchange. I agree to pay $150 for this calculator because I'm tired of using a slide rule and I want to make my life more productive and more efficient. So I want to buy the calculator. So I agree to pay $150 for it because I think it's worth it and it's going to improve my life. Okay, so the quote, here to quote again, and we'll do analysis since we're talking about hypergamy state. He says the phenomena in which females simply copulate, this is back what it said before, as they please with a plethora of attractive males as opposed to monogamy. He blames feminism, economic independence. Oh my God, you can't have economic independence from the government. No fault divorce for skyrocketing divorce. Plummeting birth rates. Well, if you abolish the tax, the birth rates go up. What does he keep saying here? He said modern women pursue top tier men, leaving most in involuntary loneliness. We can't think of any other alternatives to get out of loneliness. Let's see. Calls for a new order restricting women's economic and sexual freedom. So, yeah, what do you abolish the 19th Amendment? Okay, so here, this section, through the objectivist lens, radical objectivist lens, Ayn Rand, evolutionary preferences, hypergamy, are real but not injustice. Okay? They're not injustice. Because free societies allow self-improvement, ambition, fitness, and rationality, right? To increase one's value. Fatalistic resentment is anti-life, second-handed. Ayn Rand emphasized rational self-interest and choosing worthy partners, not entitlement or coercion. So this guy gets it wrong. And now through the Agorist Ancap lens, state policies, right, like welfare and family courts, distort incentives, subsidizing poor choices and reducing male accountability signals. The solutions: voluntary, polyamory, monogamy contracts, right? Reputation systems, cultural shifts via markets, no top-down restrictions, which require aggression, right? Violence. Personal agency, become high value, build parallel communities. That's basically a summation of this part here. And that's through my Agorist lens. Where's my pointer? There it is. Okay. He says, high capitalism itself is deeply interconnected with the philosophy of liberalism, which in earlier times was almost synonymous term for capitalism. I thought liberalism meant libere, liberty from government. Weren't the classical liberals more like minarchists or anarchists? Because they believed in freedom from government coercion, and capitalism, or Ancap anyway, and anarcho-capitalism is conflict avoidance. That's what capitalism is anyway. It's conflict avoidance. You're avoiding conflict because you're engaging in a voluntary exchange. It was created by the bourgeois class for the benefit of themselves. I don't know how do they do that? It doesn't work out. It won't work out anyway if they did that. Usually socialism does. Usually socialism will be the benefit to themselves, which would be the elite. Always. And the rest of us will be suffering. So he's describing communism here. Okay, anyway. To increase our understanding, it's necessary for us to go over all these core principles or assumptions. Here in this chapter, firstly, liberalism and capitalism operate under the assumption that all humans are created equal. That's not what they mean. You know that. It's supposed to be created equal under the law. No one's that dumb. No one's that absurd to believe that we are actually created equal. Everybody knows that's not true. What they mean is equality under the law. You're all, the justice is the blind justice. I do not see. I hear nothing. I see nothing. I know nothing. This assumption is blatantly and demonstrably false. You even recognize that. But the bourgeois class needs people to believe in it. For when it is widely accepted to be true, it is consequently inferred by people generally that any problem which occurs in society is not the result of tangible, inherent problems in the society or itself, but of some personal, autonomous choice of lateness. It is. Otherwise, on the part of the person or people suffering from any given problem. As since they supposedly started out with the exact same setup as successful people, they don't start up at the same setup. We maximize opportunity. It follows that they must have received their misfortunes by deliberate choice. A lot of them do. A lot of them choose to be poor. And then, see, this is wrong here. This goes against objectivism, where Ayn Rand says that all actions are volitional. Okay, and then they said, consequently, people tend not to look, they say we're being distracted from this cause, this real cause here, and then look deeper into the underlying systemic causes of societal problems. See, Tim is he's a communist. It's a technical thing. It's a mechanical thing you can just solve by the use of the state. And you're just recognizing the systematic causes, and you need to destroy it. This is not about creating anything. This is not about creating anything of value. High Income is not criticized or engaged, which is to say that the wealth of the bourgeois class is not endangered. It's not something they have. Now here's where he gets wrong here. I mean, well, okay. Secondly, liberalism, capitalism, I don't know, both, they're the same. Operate under the assumptions that all humans are basically good and that desire to engage in competition. They're not engaging they're not competing against one another. That's not what capitalism is. It's not about competition. It's about thought creation. You're using your thought to create something, because a free thought or free thoughts is a corollary to a free market, and vice versa. A free market is a corollary to free thoughts. So you're not competition, it's creation. You're creating something that someone else is going to find something of use in. Humans are neither basically good nor basically evil, but are inherently capable of both goodness and badness. Not if you have the right principles in the first place, as they are basically animals and are complex creatures with very strong inherent drives that can have both harmful and positive impacts on those around them. Okay. Well, you can be an irrational actor if you like. Okay, it goes on and on. Let's see. Finally, liberalism, capitalism operate under the assumption that all humans are rational-minded and fully autonomous. No. Objectivists know that humans, that they're going to be irrational actors. We don't assume they're going to be rational-minded. We assume people are going to make the deliberate irrational choices. No sane or healthy person wants to be in chronic pain or to be starving or socially isolated. No sane person? No sane or healthy person wants to be in chronic pain or be starving or socially isolated. Some do. Unabomber, he wanted to be socially isolated. And of course, but he says all this is all unfortunate conditions, by no means chosen, but are in reality forced onto people through biological, societal, and historical processes that are outside the control. This is not true. You have control over yours. Mind your own business. Make your bedroom, clean your bedroom. You do have control of these things. You can choose. You could choose through various different opportunities, and to get out of your situation that you're in. But they're all different though. All these opportunities are going to be different. It's going to fit. They're going to customize it and fit themselves. The individual looking for an opportunity that will fit them. They have that flexibility. How about this one? What does it say? But the bourgeois class needs people to think they are fully autonomous and rational-minded. Nobody thinks this. For it not only gives people the illusion that bourgeois class themselves attain all their power through honest and genuine hard work, instead of through luck. They didn't get it through luck. But the assumption additionally causes people to falsely believe that any problems encountered by themselves or others are not serious issues that are the result of any inherent flaws in society that arise out of capitalism, but instead are more trivialities, spelled that wrong, that can be supposedly overcome easily by anyone who wishes to. Well, it's not going to be easy. No one's saying it's going to be easy at all. Yeah, if they wish. Because they have will. They have the free will. Because this guy believes in inevitability. It believes it's inevitable that this is going to happen. Because he doesn't believe that someone can overcome these things by their own free will. He doesn't believe this. He doesn't believe in free will. Because it's all inevitable. It's all going to happen naturally. So why, he doesn't believe anyone could just say, I've got free will. I'm gonna choose to get out of this to overcome them myself. But he doesn't believe this. He believes it's inevitable. He doesn't say it though. He never says it in here. But he sure as heck is saying it though. and no one said it was easy to overcome. Okay. Summarized, therefore, we can now at least look with the closeness of how monogamy has largely done away with high capitalism. What? And we also may view in detail the hypergamy that has replaced it. And what's going to replace hypergamy? To put it simply, capitalism system based on the continual profit of select few. yeah, blah blah blah. God, just the same old crap we've heard since Bismarckian German National Socialism. Okay, this is just Okay, now we start getting to the fun part now about the Jews. Hey, socialists, man. All socialists are anti-Semitic. Can't have one without the other. Let me get to that. The Communist Manifesto. Let's see. How long is this thing? We're on page 17 only. Oh, page 37. I thought this was 109 pages. Having then obtained the means of generating their own salaries, and with traditional culture now being replaced by high capitalist monoculture, I thought it was hypergamy. Women simply no longer wanted or even needed common men as much as they once did, and monogamy thereby plummeted in frequency, with women overwhelmingly preferring to work for corporations while earning money and engaging in hypergamy as opposed to working for common husbands. I like that this guy doesn't understand human action. He doesn't understand it at all. He thinks all this shit is inevitable. I mean, a nihilistic worldview. No wonder he wanted to shoot things. What the hell's the word? What's the point of living? If you believe it's inevitable, well, yeah, what's the point? There's nothing you can do about it. Where does he get that part? Is that the next chapter? Scrolling down here to the blah blah blah. God, I don't know. With the Soviet, many of its allies having been defeated and their populations brought into the domain of Western corporate interests, the Western bourgeois class under the system, which many have never referred to as neoliberalism, entered into what has yet been their halcyon days, which are those of 1990s and early 2000s. God. Okay, hypergamy state is in fullness, has emerged, and this hypergamy state is what we in the West are now living in. Okay. Blah blah blah. What's the next stage? Results of the present mode of intimacy. I don't know. Maybe this guy spends too much time on the internet. He needs to get out. Did we cover that intimacy? Hypergamy, involuntary loneliness, pervasive coercive. Let's just get to the anti-Semitism, because this is just being redundant now. In summation, the favored males within a hypergamy state typically live a life of abundant intimacy, which is given very passionately to them. Given? As it originates from a place of genuine biological desire on the part of the females who, consciously or not, wish to reproduce with them. The favored, oh God, Jesus Christ. I'm glad I decided not to read all this. I should have read that report that came out a week ago. Should have read that instead. That's more horrific. This guy's just boring. It reads like Mein Kampf. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Typical socialist, anti-Semitic nonsense. How long does it keep going? Let's see. Let's where's the next chapter? Is that it? Did I skip it? During the sadistic deprivation, the disposed male is forced to observe as the more attractive and popular of his male peers proceed to feast themselves upon an endless banquet to thrive. With Caligula? On the other hand, for the common male, the closest thing is intimacy, which he's allowed to undergo, is usually the twist. Dude, just get the hell out of the house. God, get off the internet. Get off Reddit. I mean, that's what this crap reads like. Disposed. God, this is just boring as hell. Does it end? Okay, anyway. Boy, that's okay, so he does get to anti-Semitism. So he talks, the quote is that the influence of Zionist Jews upon the Western bourgeois is in fact so strong that In many other works, I sometimes refer to the Western ruling class itself as the Judeo-bourgeois class. Thanks, Hitler. Many Jews in ruling classes target influential Zionist corporations with ties, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Distinguishes here not all Jews, but he frames it as pervasive coercive influence. So, through this subjective lens, irrational collectivism and conspiracy. Yep. He judged individuals by merit actions. He doesn't. But you judge the individual by merit action, not ethnicity. Jews' success often correlates with high average IQ, education, urban professions, not a cabal, secret cabal, empirical pattern, not plot. Anti-Semitism is mystical tribalism, antithetical to reason and individualism. Agorism, Ancap lens, violates individualism and the non-aggression principle, of course. No group guilt. Voluntary association ignores ethnicity. Targeting is initiatory force. Cronyism exists across the groups. Blame the state, not ethnicity. And so now he's going to do the thing at the end, like they all do. Instead of just letting the stages kind of transition from one to another, he wants to call to violent revolutionary solution. So he says the quote is, "But in flinching, go forth and kill them all." Do I have it in the thumbnail here? Objectivist, happy, moral purpose, suffering, blah, 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 dimorphism. Let's see. Block. Yeah, we already read about that. Capitalism, Manifesto, hypergamy, we did that. Let's see. Let me scroll down here. Yep, okay. Anti-Semitism here, yeah. Here's what he's talking about. The influence of Zionist Jews upon Western bourgeois is in fact so strong that in many other works I sometimes refer to the Western ruling class itself as Judeo-bourgeois class. Pervasive, coercive influence targets influential Zionists. Okay, so yeah, as always, they always identify some real pattern out there of the elite overrepresentation and crony influence. What he does is he questions the power structures, of course, and media political influence. Distinguishes not all Jews, partial nuance. Okay. Where are we going here? Minority Manifesto. Okay. Calls to violence. Here it is. Pages 90 to 104. Later sections and conclusion. So the quote is, "Be unflinching, go forth and kill them all." So he targets elites, foreign industry, bankers, politicians, Class A targets via paramilitary action. Why do you need all that when it's supposed to just high capitalism or late stage capitalism is supposed to wither away naturally? Let's see. Oh no, it's the same. 37. Okay. The whole quote, classes A target, yeah, paramilitary action for new order. Okay. So all lenses here, unambiguous rejection, objectivism, agorism, and Ancap rest on reason and non-initiation of force. And this here, of course, terrorism is evil, counterproductive, and invites tyranny. Of course, real change, philosophical, cultural objectivist, counter-economic, agorist, which is better. You just create, black and gray markets and gigging and stuff like that, and to wither away the state, starve the beast, through private institutions and markets. Ancap. Violence against incidents, police, bystanders is moral bankruptcy. Okay. So that's the conclusion he comes with. That's his solution. A violent solution, of course. So yeah, you can go ahead and download and read this manifesto for yourself. I'm gonna kind of sum up here the whole thing. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't read it. 109 pages of just sheer boredom. That was a waste of time. I thought it'd be something interesting, but it's just a standard communist socialist claptrap. Nothing innovative or original at all. He's not, again, the whole thing just reads like, okay, why don't you create something? He doesn't talk about actually creating anything. He talks about destroying it. And it's nihilistic because it's like everything, and also the other part of it's like it's just inevitable. Everything's supposed to just happen naturally. High capitalism, late stage capitalism, blah 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 blah. Same old crap. So the overall synthesis here. So this manifesto is a syncretic mess. Evolutionary realism plus Marxist base, superstructure analysis plus incel fatalism and anti-Semitic tropes plus vanguardist terror. It does correctly spots biological sex differences, but whoopee-doo. Anybody can do that. Cultural decay, yes, and elite disconnects. But his misdiagnosis causes what? And prescribes poison. That's what it prescribes. Collectivist violence restrictions. So he claims that capitalism and liberalism are the root of evil. What else? That sounds exactly like Hitler. The guy sounds like a national socialist. Because Hitler always criticized liberalism, but he never criticized leftism. He considered the left to be the fanatic and ideologues, the stronger of the group. He considered the conservatives, the right wing, to be weaklings and cowards. So, truth-seeking. Let's finish up here. Truth-seeking. Takeaway. Male struggles are real. Yes, that's right. They do dominate the very dangerous jobs, dangerous fields. They are real. You know, look at the stats on suicide. Look at education. Dating apps show imbalances. And look, universities show imbalances. Predominantly are white women in school, universities. So it's driven by tech, yes, porn, dopamine loops. And of course, policy distortions is always declining social trust. That's the other one. I mean, that's kind of a social trust, high trust society. That's can be a negative too. I mean, I can see the positive in it, but it can turn into a negative real fast because you can trust someone too much and they can take advantage of you. So there's more of a negative to that I think than anything. It's good to kind of not trust by default and kind of get to know people instead of just trust too easily. And I know I live in Japan. It's a high trust society, and people get taken advantage of. They get kidnapped and raped. And philosophical voids. Not a Zionist capital conspiracy. So the real solutions, everyone, you can disagree if you like here, but solutions lie in reason, voluntary cooperation, self-improvement, and dismantling state interventions that warp incentives. This tragedy, it underscores why mixing resentment with force leads to waste, not renewal. And if you agree with that, let me know in the comment section below. If not, let me know what we disagree with here. That's about it. We've done for more than an hour on this. And I am so glad I did not read this whole thing. I planned to read it, but now that they broke it down into sections and just, quote mined the document and then commented on each section in an analysis was better, I think, anyway. But I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below if you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff or not, or you disagree with my conclusions, or you think this guy is based. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below. All right. So that's all we got for tonight, and we'll see you in the